Another clue for fast motion of the Hawaiian Hotspot. This is by GFZ, Geoforschung Zentrum Potsdam, Helmholtz Center. I'm not going to say that again. By phys.org. The island chain of Hawaii consists of several volcanoes, as we know, which are fed by a hotspot. In geosciences, a hotspot refers to a phenomenon of columnar-shaped streams, which transport hot material from the deep mantle to the surface. Like a blowtorch, the material burns through the Earth's crust and forms volcanoes. For a long time, it was assumed that these hotspots are stationary. If the tectonic plate moved across it, a chain of volcanoes evolves, with the youngest volcano at one end and the oldest at the other. This concept was initially proposed for the Hawaiian Islands. They are the youngest end of the Hawaiian Emperor chain that lies beneath the Northwest Pacific. But soon there was doubt over whether hotspots are truly stationary. The biggest contradiction was a striking bend of about 60 degrees in this volcanic chain, which originated 47 million years ago. If you try to explain this bend with just a sudden change in the movement of the Pacific plate, you would expect a significantly different direction of motion at that time relative to adjacent tectonic plates. This is what Bernhard Steinberger of GFZ, German Research Center Geoscience, says. He says, but we have not found any evidence for that. Recent studies suggested that apparently two processes were effective. On the one hand, the Pacific plate has changed its direction of motion. On the other hand, the Hawaiian hotspot moved relatively quickly southward in the period from 60 to about 50 million years ago, and then stopped. If this hotspot motion is considered, only a smaller change of Pacific plate motions is needed to explain the volcano chain. Finally, support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box. This hypothesis is now supported by work in which Steinberger is also involved. First, author Kevin Conrad, Oregon State University in Corvallis, Oregon, and his team have evaluated new rock dating of volcanoes in the Rurutu volcano chain, including, for example, the Tuvalu volcanic islands in the Western Pacific. Furthermore, they added similar data from the Hawaiian Emperor chain and the Louisville chain in the Southern Pacific. And based on the geography and the age of volcanoes in these 3 chains, researchers can look into the geological past and see how the 3 hotspots have moved relative to each other over millions of years. The new data published in the journal Nature Communications shows that the relative motion of hotspots under the Rurutu and Louisville is small, while the Hawaiian Emperor hotspot displays strong motion between 60 and 48 million years ago relative to the other 2 hotspots. This makes it very likely that mainly the Hawaiian hotspots has moved, says Steinberger, and according to his geodynamic modeling, the Hawaiian hotspot moved at a rate of several tens of kilometers per million years. Paleomagnetic data supported this interpretation, says Steinberger. He says our models for the motion of the Pacific plate and the hotspots therein still have some inaccuracies. With more field data information about the processes deep in the mantle, we hope to explain in more detail how the bend in the Hawaiian Emperor chain has evolved. This is on phys.org. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support.